Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our program. And I'm Alex Wang, and the other person is Dr. Carlos, and it's just our guest for the discussion. Hi, Dr. Carlos. Thanks
Hi,
for
Alex. How are you?
thanks for joining our programs today.
My pleasure.
We truly appreciate your time, especially given your expertise in pharmaceutical deals.
Thank you.
Many of our audience still record our previous discussion, especially the one about Ascentage and Takeda
Right.
last year, I think. Recently, another significant transaction caught our attention. The collaboration between the Jiangsu Hengrui and the GSK. I think maybe you have already heard about it before I sent out our invitation.
Yes, indeed. Very interesting deal.
The deal includes the one clinical stage project and the other 11 projects in preclinical stage, and with a total contract value of up to 12 billion US dollars, included a 500 million USD upfront payment. Given the scale and the complexity of the deal, I think we have a lot of things or a lot of the topics can discuss here.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's enter the discussion directly. And the first topic I think, well, I just want to discuss with you about is combination trade method. Yeah, you can see in the past several years, the packaged deal model has become increasingly common and I internet and found also the Jiangsu Hengrui last year. They licensed a package to an American company named Hercules. And that deal includes the three innovative GLP-1 drugs. And
Okay.
last month, another Chinese pharmaceutical company named Novartis, they licensed out their CAR-T therapy and some universal to a company named the Origin, something like that. There are a lot of these kind of deals. So my question is about the package, the deal. So what are the factors do you think are driving the rise in packaged deal?
Yeah, it's a great question, and right in that, and I don't have any hard numbers, but intuitively or instinctively, my thought is that it would be unusual for a mid-size or a large company to in-license, two candidates at the most. Typically, if you're talking about a deal that involves three, four, five, six drug candidates, that's unusual. You do see that obviously if a company is being acquired, but this is not an acquisition; these are licenses. So it's certainly quite unusual. Now, question is also, why would somebody do this?
Yeah,
There could be.
I totally agree with you. And the expertise, usually they will just as a packaged deal will just include the projects. They are very similar. For example, they do the same target, or they just have the and sometimes the other project is just a backup for the main one. But
Right.
Henry and GSK's deal is totally different. They include the different project in the different development stage even for the different indications. So it's special. So.
Different indications, but also to me, what's even more interesting is that different modalities. So small molecule, there's antibody drug conjugates involved. I mean, it's somewhat unusual to have a company working on, different modalities and different therapeutic areas, unless you're a big pharma company.
Okay.
So that's also what's quite unusual about transaction. And I mean, I've deals which involve, two, three drug candidates. Typically, they're very similar, like you're saying. Maybe same mechanism of action, maybe slightly different molecules, maybe two different indications in the same therapeutic area. But this is 12 across multiple modalities, which is very, very
Okay. So what kind of the factors you think just driving this kind of rise?
I say this, and I believe it's true here, which is that big pharma companies, they tend to hire a lot of really smart, sharp people. And so if GSK is in licensing 12 drug candidates, and I repeat, 12, that's a big number. They just simply must be really, really drug candidates at the end of the day. Again, we don't know exactly what the other 11 are, other than the one for COPD, which was disclosed. Um, but I think it's reasonable to assume that those 12 drug candidates are really, really, and by really, really, I mean there's a certain degree of novelty about them. Maybe they're novel targets. Maybe they have an interesting efficacy or safety profile. They must have some amazing animal data because they're all preclinical. They must have some really good tox or safety or some other supportive data as well. So, I mean, I would love to understand how this all happened, but maybe GSK was only interested in one, and Hengrui just decided to show them this one. GSK said, "Yep, that's good. We'll take them all." But yeah, GSK is people. They must have been some really, really candidates,
Okay.
and they decided to just take the whole package. That's my assumption.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kens. Yeah, because I think everything should have the reasons behind the phenomenon. So I think
Yeah,
because we have already seen so many packaged deals that taking place now, so I think they must have their advantage comparing with the
yeah.
single pack deals. So will you please just share your idea about the advantage of this kind of the packaged deal, just different from the single project deals? Not
Yeah,
only for the license, but also for the licensee, because only when both of them successfied this kind of the constructions, they can do that.
yeah. Again, it's another good question, and there's probably two ways to look at this. One is, looking at it from the GSK perspective, from a licensee perspective. It's entirely possible that although they're paying 500 million up front and 12 billion total, um, and obviously we don't know how they view the valuation or the risk associated with these other drug candidates, but it's entirely possible that they could have, conducted an independent valuation of all of these and put everything together and decided, 12 billion for 12 drug candidates is actually a really good deal. So one way to think about this possibly is to say, maybe Glaxo, GSK, it tells you how old I am. I'm still calling them Glaxo.
Okay.
Um, it's possible that GSK looked at this and said, what? We're negotiating with a single company. Maybe we like them. They negotiate well. It's a great package. It's a great deal. 12 billion risk adjusted over time is a good deal for us. Sure, we'll take all 12. So it's possible that although 12 billion is a big number, obviously, um, but maybe GSK felt like they got a good deal out of this, especially if it touches on therapeutic areas of interest. So it's respiratory, oncology, and so forth. So that's from a K point of view. From a Hengrui point of view, again, it's you're negotiating with one company over 12 drug candidates. I mean, imagine trying to outlicense 12 drug candidates individually to 12 different pharma companies. That would take years. It would take years, right? I mean, you and I both know how this works. That would take years. But to do it all with one company, GSK is obviously a global, multinational, legitimate company. You sign one document and done. And you get 500 up front. It just makes for a much probably a simpler process
Yeah.
relative to trying to outlicense all these one at a time. Now, the one caveat to this is I suspect that this was a negotiation and a process that probably took months and months and months because GSK obviously needed to perform all this due diligence and negotiate all this. So, this was not a deal that started in January. This is probably a process that started a year plus ago because there's so many candidates involved. But I think at the end of the day, number one, they're just really good drug candidates. And both parties probably came to the same conclusion. It's just convenient, easier, and I use the word easier, very loosely, just to negotiate and transact with one company as opposed to doing multiple transactions.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I think maybe they have some other factors induce this kind of the phenomenon. I think just for the big pharma like the GSK, I think if they signed the deal with Hengrui about these 12 projects, especially that 11 early stage projects, maybe they just say just how to say tell the other people I have already picked up these 11 projects. Don't it belongs somehow it belongs to me. So do you think if it is kind of the reasons the why GSK or the big farmers like to do that? But for the Hengrui, I think maybe because compared with the GSK, Hengrui is still a little small. Yeah, and if a multinational company they sign the deals with a Chinese farmer, even the top one pharmaceutical company in China, and they still think, oh, that's okay because it's kind of the endorsement just for them because the big farmers they say our innovative capability and they not only picked up our leading project in the area, but also they our 11 early stage projects. So they think that is okay. Do you think about it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, two things. A, just to repeat what I said earlier, GSK could have signed a deal for three of these candidates, or six, or seven. They would not have signed. They would not have included candidate number 8, 9, 10, unless there were really good drug candidates on their own as individual drug candidates. Now obviously it's possible that GSK may have said, like you said earlier, they may have said, we'll take both of them, candidate 11 and 12. In case 11 doesn't work out, we've got 12. That makes sense to me. And that's certainly possible. But they still have to be good drug candidates at the end of the day. Glaxo GSK doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to license all 12. So they must be good. And so that's point number one. And then point number two, which we should probably talk about at some point, which is that, Hengrui is a really interesting company because they have discovery and development programs, small molecules, antibodies, different therapeutic areas, different indications. That's unusual. So that to me that this is a company that has really strong management, very patient investors. Scientifically, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because clearly the data that Glaxo liked for 12 drug candidates, not just one or two, 12.
Yeah.
So this is a company that must be extremely well managed, extremely sharp people that were able to produce candidates that attracted a company like GSK.
Okay. Yeah, I think the reason why Hengrui, the company like Hengrui can just develop the project in different indication or different modality. I think just the reason is that many Chinese pharmaceutical companies they are switched from the generic drugs to innovative drugs. In the generic drugs, they have covered many different kind of the indication area. So they have the sales network or capability. So it's not like the company in the other companies. They have the limitation in the sales network. So when they have the capability for the sales, so they can just develop the different drugs for the different indication. So I think they have some logic behind. But I still interested about the packaged deal because I previously BD experienced when the example because the deal included 12 different projects. I think it is very possible in the future GSK will say, "Oh, I only pick up these maybe 3 or 4 or 5 projects. The others I don't need them." And at that time, maybe the other company will say, "Oh, that might be some reasons behind." But if so, why the GSK rejected or don't want to continue?
Yeah.
So I think it might be a kind of the risk for Hengrui. How do you think about it?
Yeah, that's a great, it's great. Again, eventually this contract, a version of this contract will be public, so it would be interesting to see what's there. Um, and yeah, it's certainly possible that GSK looked at some of these candidates and decided to their hands on them, let's say, whether it's through a license or whether it's an option to license some of these, we don't entirely know.
Yeah.
But to basically get the rights to these drug candidates for like you're suggesting for reasons. They have candidate number 12, so Novartis doesn't have candidate number 12. That's possible. And if they views getting their hands on candidate number 12 for a relatively low cost, okay, then it may make some sense. Now, to your point, which is a very good one, if GSK, does not progress these drug candidates at the pace that you would think a licensor would want, maybe there's a clause in the contract that says, if efforts aren't made, then maybe there's a mechanism by which Hengrui can get these candidates back. Maybe there's a clawback provision of some kind that says, if Glaxo doesn't do this, then we can either get them back, we can buy them back. There may be some mechanism, and you're absolutely right. There's that potential risk that let's say candidate number 12. Maybe Hengrui would have been better off not including that in this deal, maybe only getting, I don't know, 495 up front, and then out licensing candidate number 12 to Novartis for 50 up front, and they would have been better off economically. You're absolutely right. And that's one of those things we'll never know. But it's again to go back, that maybe GSK is getting their hands on some of these drug candidates for competitive purposes. And like you're saying, Hengrui is the one accepting that risk.
Okay. I think both of each side might be have made the careful consideration about this and cost about the deals. So and then they made the decision to sign on the contract. So besides the potential risk we mentioned just now, what kind of the pitfalls should companies consider when construction this kind of the complex deals, do you think?
Yeah, again, it comes back to a couple of things. Again, looking at it from a licensor's perspective, there is, I have this term sheet from the term sheet says, 500 up front, blah, blah. The total, risk adjusted value is 12 billion. Okay, fine. What if I outlicense candidates 1, 2, and 3 to GSK, 4, 5, and 6 to Glaxo, 7 to Merck, 8 to Pfizer, and so forth and so on. If I can do that, which is a big if, it's not easy to do. If I'm able to do that, what's the economic value of executing 6, 7, 8 transactions with different companies as opposed to just one big one? There are pros and cons. If I execute the one with a GSK, okay, I've got 500 up front. Thank you very much. I'm happy with that. From a valuation point of view, I may be happy with that. From a BD process point of view, again, I may be happy with that because I just signed one contract and I'm done. But the flip side is, again, if I have another company interested in candidate number 12, you have to do the math. Does it make sense to take less money from GSK for 1 through 11 and execute the deal for candidate number 12 with a different company that my total value may be higher by signing these 2 licenses instead of just 1, or maybe it's 3 licenses instead of just 1. So assuming for a moment that these are, again, really, really drug candidates, that would imply that there have been other companies involved in this process. Maybe Novartis was interested. Maybe Merck was interested. We don't know. We'll never know. But if that's the case, and if Hengrui sort of subtly said, they're on the phone with Glaxo, and then the CEO from Merck calls them. Maybe there's a rationale to say, you know what, I'll just take the 500 from GSK and be done, because I don't think I get much more if I license 11 to GSK and then this one to Merck. So it really depends on, who else is involved, what other drug candidates are they interested in, what's the value of this deal versus deals 2 and 3. So somebody in their finance department must have been really, really with a lot of different spreadsheets and a lot of different scenarios, evaluating all this. And again, they got the 500 up front. That I'm assuming that's probably the best deal they got out of all the options that they could have had.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. And for the person, that's at least it's a successful deal, and also especially it's a big deal, and a lot of the deal value is big. And for the company, maybe they have to consider more factors. And maybe in the future, because the option is not only for the licensee, but also for the licensor. Maybe in the future, some of them will change their mind, and maybe the licensor will just report the project, and the licensee will say no. And maybe strategy changed. We will not just continue developing these follow up these in the future. So there are some uncertain factors in the future. I compare with single deals. Maybe the packaged the deal maybe is not so very close or solid. There are some uncertain factors. Yeah, just now discussion recorded my some the memory, because I some patent before. Just write the patent. And some of the lawyer told us, you not just record all of the claims in one patent, because it's very dangerous. Because somebody said, "Oh, your system is not right," maybe they will say, "We will just sue you and then let your patents they not available." So I think sometimes they have some the thing between these two things. How do you think about it?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's are you better off just having one sort of uber patent with 50 claims, or are you better off having 5 patents with 10 claims each? And that's an interesting question, because there's a cost associated with that, right? I mean, filing a patent is not cheap. It's not free. So again, I go back to the economics. At the end of the day, maybe Hengrui said, you know what, they're offering me 500. It's good enough. I'll take it. And the other thing about deal, speaking of, talking about the size of the deal in terms of the number of drug candidates, I said earlier that this is a company that must be well managed, really good scientists and so forth. We also don't know what other projects Hengrui is working on. So, they're be in a situation where they looked at these 12 drug candidates, or let's say 11 plus 1.
Okay.
And they said, you know what? If Glaxo wants them all, fine. They can have them, because we've got another 12 in the basement that we haven't told GSK about that are really, really good as well. And we're going to get 500 for those as well. So, this just be, a company that's just an innovation machine. They're going to let 12 go. For most other companies, that would be the end of the company, because most companies don't have 12 drug candidates that are licensable.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a separate topic. But they've got 12 that are licensable. They let them all go, and they've got another 12 in the basement. So, that'd be another factor that must have played into their thinking as well. Though they do retain China rights, they must have other things cooking in the labs as well besides these 12.
Oh, yeah. As you know, the AI developed very quickly in China. I think not only in China, but also in your country or globally. I think that might be another reason, because with the assistance of AI, the R&D may be a little convenient or high efficient than so previously. So I think maybe they have a lot of the innovative assets in their pipeline. So it's important for the company like the Hengrui can just license so many innovative assets in one deals. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of companies, obviously, in the U.S. and Europe, and it's for me to see just looking at a company's website. It's rare to see a company that will have the pipeline page. Every company has a pipeline page, right? It's when you think about it, it's rare to see a company that has a pipeline page that has more than, I don't know, five, six at the most, and they're trying to attract venture investment. They want to raise as much capital as possible. They're going to put everything on that website to make it appear that they have a lot of candidates in development and they're all interesting and they're all valuable. And that's why we need 150 million, Series B, when maybe only two or three are actually valuable. But Glaxo took all 12, so they must be really good candidates. So yeah, this is just again, I don't know much about this company, but they just seem to me to be just an amazing company in terms of their ability to innovate, whether it's just AI, whether it's sharp people, whether it's a combination of both. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it, but they're doing it very well.
Yeah, they not only just use the AI by themselves, they also just cooperated with some AI company in China. Yeah, maybe
Oh,
some
really?
AI company just from the Western country. Yeah, that's is also very possible.